Hey everyone, I'm Kyla. Welcome to my channel where I talk about the stock market and the economy, amongst other things. Today, we have an interview with Deputy Secretary of the Treasury, Wally Adeyemo, about the policies that the Treasury has recently passed to help fix the housing shortage that is in the United States of America. I talk about the housing shortage all the time because I think it's something extremely important. Because when we think about the American dream, home ownership often comes to mind. It's this vision of stability, of putting down roots, of having a place to call your own. It's the main way to build wealth in the United States of America. The chart that I talk about all the time, the distribution of financial assets from the Federal Reserve, shows that the bottom 50% of all of their wealth tied up into real estate. And that's because we view homes as both a speculative asset and a place to live, something that I've talked about in previous videos. But for many Americans, that dream of home ownership has become increasingly out of reach.
What we need in this country is more housing. We have a supply shortage in the country.
That's Deputy Secretary of the Treasury, Wally Adeyemo. We chatted on Monday, June 24th, about the Treasury's new housing efforts. Janet Yellen announced these efforts in a city that is taking bold steps to change the housing narrative and how its actions might reshape the way we think about housing in America. It's a perfect combination of policy and actions. It's Minneapolis, Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes and the land of 10,000 good ideas about housing policy. It's revolutionary. Minneapolis might just be showing us the future of American cities. Because in 2019, Minneapolis, Minnesota did something very interesting. They reformed zoning. It sent shockwaves through urban planning circles across the country because they effectively eliminated single family zoning, allowing duplexes and traplexes to be built in neighborhoods previously restricted to single family homes, meaning that more people could live in those neighborhoods. This move, part of their ambitious Minneapolis 2040 plan, was aimed at addressing a critical issue, the housing supply shortage.
They took some steps to make sure that they got rid of some of the things that got in the way of building more housing, like some of the zoning restrictions around parking, around how high you can build buildings. And they did something that every city should consider doing. They came up with a plan and they put it on paper.
Now, you might be wondering what's the big deal about zoning, and I talked about this in a previous video, and honestly, it deserves a video all on its own. But zoning laws are the invisible architecture of our cities. They determine what can be built if you can have a coffee shop down the street or, below your apartment building. And they've been used for decades to shape neighborhoods, sometimes for better, oftentimes for worse, because historically zoning has been used as a tool of exclusion. Is keeping certain types of housing and by extension, certain groups of people out of particular neighborhoods. By opening up single family areas to denser housing options, Minneapolis is not just addressing the housing shortage, it's taking a stand against the legacy of exclusionary zoning. And the results are phenomenal. Rents in Minneapolis have stayed below the national average, even as housing costs continue to skyrocket in other cities. US home prices are up 51% over the past 52 months, more home price appreciation than for the total of the 1990s decade, for the total of the 2000s decade, and for the entire 2010s decade, according to Lance Lambert of Resi Club. We have seen more home price appreciation in the past 4 years than we did over entire 10-year periods, over entire decades. We are short anywhere from 1 million to 4.5 million homes. And Minneapolis is a success story. And that's why Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen gave a speech there, celebrating the city's progress and announcing new federal initiatives to support affordable housing nationwide.
So Secretary Yellen went there today to celebrate the progress they've made, but also to commend them for using some of the money from the Treasury Department, the money we gave them in the American Rescue Plan, to build even more housing for people locally.
But Minneapolis isn't alone in this endeavor. Cities like Austin, Texas, and Burlington, Vermont are following suit with their own zoning reforms. We've talked about Austin, Texas quite a bit. Rents are down over 12% because they built more, because they zone differently. It's part of a growing recognition that the path to affordable housing often begins with changing the rules that govern what can be built and where. Of course, zoning reform is just one part of the puzzle. The Treasury Department is rolling out a series of new programs to make housing more accessible and more affordable. Let's break them down. First, there's a new program that will provide $100 million over the next 3 years to support affordable housing financing. This money will go through the Community Development Financial Institutions Fund, or CDFI fund.
What these institutions do is they are located in communities, especially communities that don't have access to big banks. Just last week, I was in Idaho. And in Idaho, despite the fact that it's mostly a rural state, even there you have a housing shortage. And what the CDFIs are doing is they're giving this money to local developers who are building affordable housing on a regular basis there. And this $100 million is money that is coming into the CDFI program that they're going to recycle back into these CDFIs to help build additional affordable housing, especially in communities that are in rural areas or in urban areas that lack traditional banking access.
Then there's a program aimed at providing interest rate predictability, something that sounds really dry, but actually I think most people would really like right now in terms of getting a mortgage. It might sound dry, but it's really crucial for developers because if you don't want to buy a house when mortgage rates are sky high, you also don't want to build a house.
So part of the challenge that you hear from people who are building houses is when you go out and build a house, you take out several loans to do it. One, you take out a construction loan. So you take out the loan to construct the building. And then when you're done, you usually have to roll it off into a different loan. One of the challenges that people have is that the interest rate moves while you're building the house. So let's say it takes you a year to finish building the house, and then you go out and get a new loan, and the interest rate has moved so much that it's unaffordable for you to continue to get that new loan to continue to carry the home. What this program does is it helps the builders lock in the interest rates that they're going to get for both of those loans.
The Federal Reserve has been raising rates in order to battle inflation, but that's actually made the housing problem much worse. It's made it much harder to manage. People don't want to build. New home construction is at its weakest level in 4 years. And it varies across the country too, as Connor Sen of Bloomberg Opinion highlights. Single family inventory levels in many parts of the Northeast are 70% or more below pre-COVID levels. The Treasury is also updating the Capital Magnet Fund to reduce administrative burdens. It's all about cutting red tape.
And I think one of the things that every builder goes through, especially if you're trying to build affordable housing in this country, is you're trying to find money from all kinds of different places. You're probably going to get a bank loan. You're probably going to get a low income housing tax credit. And what you're trying to build is this thing called a capital stack that includes different tranches of money that are helping you get enough money to build the final house. And all of this comes with different forms, different pieces of paperwork. The Capital Magnet Fund is a fund that it was intended by Congress to help people build housing. One of the challenges that people had was that it was just additional paperwork. So a big piece of what we've done is reduce the paperwork burden in order to make it so much easier for someone who's trying to build affordable housing to be able to claim it.
The thing is, you can have all the money in the world allocated to all the different projects, but if nobody knows how to use that money, the money isn't very useful at all.
A big piece of what we've done is reduce the paperwork burden in order to make it so much easier for someone who's trying to build affordable housing to be able to claim it. And it's many of these affordable housing developers are similar to other small businesses where the reason they got into affordable housing is because they want to build housing, not because they want to do paperwork. We'd rather these people be building the building than filling out paperwork.
They're even creating a how-to guide to help developers navigate the complex world of housing finance. It's like an IKEA manual, but for affordable housing.
We know that oftentimes the hardest part of building is not finding the location. It's sometimes just figuring out how to pull the financing together, especially in a place like Minneapolis, where they've done the work for you in terms of zoning. Now, the thing that you need to make sure is those people who now have the ability to build have access to different forms of capital that will help them build more quickly.
But perhaps most importantly, the Treasury Department is pushing for better integration between housing and public transit.
One of the great opportunities we have in this moment is that we passed a historic infrastructure bill in the federal government, which is going to lead to better mass transit in many cities throughout the country. Now the key has got to be that cities make it easier for people to build housing around that mass transit, because it's not only good for helping to reduce the cost of housing, which is critically important and something the president has us focused on, but it also means that people are going to have access to mass transit. They have to drive less. They get to spend more time with their families.
And the thing that's so exciting about this, and I'm biased, I'm a biker. These are not just my bikes. These are a collection of bikes. But here, this is a vision of cities that are more efficient, more sustainable, and more equitable. But it's not just an idealistic dream. It's already happening in places like Atlanta, where former office buildings are being converted into residential spaces above subway lines. The road to solving America's housing crisis is long and complex. It will require patience, creativity, and collaboration at all levels of government, federal, state, and local. But cities like Minneapolis are showing us that change is possible. They're proving that with the right policies and a little bit of imagination, we can build cities that work better for everyone, you included, as the deputy secretary put it.
Housing matters so much because it's more than just four walls.
Yeah.
It's the key to like where you have your family. It's where you have your meals. It's close to where you work. And we want to make sure that people have housing that's located near opportunity.
This is a restoration of the American dream to a certain extent, and it's happening not in some distant future, but in cities across America. The story of housing in America is far from over. It's a story that is being written and rewritten in city councils, state legislatures, and in the halls of the U.S. Treasury. It's a story about policy, but it's also a story about people, because people are the economy. It's about where we live, what we do, and the communities that we're a part of. And the thing is, well, it will take time. I recently published a piece with Bloomberg Opinion talking about how that's the one thing that we keep on asking of people is time for policies to work, time for things to take hold. And we just, that's, it sucks. And it's a short-term versus long-term thing. This is a long-term problem that we're trying to fix, or have been trying to fix, with short-term solutions. And we really have to buckle down, provide the financing, which is what's happening, build the places, which is what's starting to happen, and believe that a different world is possible.
I think in order for us to solve a challenge like this, it's important for us to understand what caused it. And the cause didn't happen overnight. It took more than a decade for us to get into the situation. And it's going to take us time to address the challenge, but we have to start now and we have to keep working at it.
As we watch this story unfold, one thing is clear: the invisible architecture of our cities, those zoning laws and financing programs that shape our built environment, will play a crucial role in determining whether the American dream of opportunity remains just that, a dream, or becomes a reality for millions of Americans. Thank you for listening. Check out my new book, In This Economy. And if you order a signed copy, you get a t-shirt. Those will be shipped out if you've already ordered. Eventually they'll be shipped out soon. They're behind me right now. Check out my work on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Substack, LinkedIn, and basically anywhere that you scroll. Don't forget to leave a review and tell a friend. Until next time, keep building.